If you've been watching my videos for a while, you might have picked up that I have a bit of a beef with materialism, with naturalism, with the idea that nothing but physical matter exists. I think this is a profoundly stupid philosophy, and I have I take issue with the fact that so many people seem to assume this is the default philosophy, that this is the most sensible philosophy, when in reality, not only is it not really sensible and actually kind of incoherent, but I actually think that no one really believes in it. No one really takes it seriously. So this is my challenge for materialist, for naturalist. Take your philosophy seriously, okay? Take your philosophy seriously. Nothing exists but particles. Nothing exists but matter. Nothing, okay? Now, I've said this to people, and they say, well, we think that thoughts exist. They're projected from our brains. Okay, that means that you think that thoughts don't exist. That's what that means. You mean that just like, okay, Luke Skywalker is projected by our brains, Luke Skywalker doesn't exist either, okay? So you mean that anything in our brains is on the same level of reality as Luke Skywalker because it is projected by our brains. Furthermore, let's just talk about thoughts for a bit, because if nothing but particles exist, that means that the only thing that encompasses you is that mushy thing inside of your skull, your brain, okay? Your mind, your free will, your sense of self-consciousness, your perception of the rules of the universe, of logic and of math, all those things are, your mind is all just a ghost. And your thoughts are the make-believe things that your ghost dreams up. It's a unreality created by an unreality. According to materialism, not only are thoughts unreal, but they're unreal times two. Your mind's unreal, and then your mind is making these unreal thoughts. And what do I mean by thoughts? I mean anything that is not material. Okay? Anything. Math, logic, the scientific method. These are all thoughts. They're not in the ground. They don't have an atomic weight. They can't be detected by scientific instruments. They are not material, and therefore they are unreal. That is your philosophy. Own it. Own it. Okay? Just take your own philosophy seriously. That's all I'm saying. Just take it seriously. Now, one response to this has been that we think that, thoughts exist. They just exist only in the mind. Okay, well, fine. Then, like I said before, anything that exists only in the mind is on the same level of reality. That means everything that's only in your mind is all equally, you can believe all of it or you can disbelieve all of it. There's no reason to elevate one thought above the other, except so let's talk about the other thoughts. Like I've told people this, and they said, look, math is not really real in that case. And they said, well, no, this is their response that I've gotten a couple times from different people, is that what we call math and logic, these are just, we observe patterns in the natural universe, and we're just making a language to describe those patterns. That's the only reality they are. They're just a description of the patterns we see. Okay, so first of all, patterns themselves aren't real. Those are another thought you're having, okay? No such thing as a pattern in the physical universe. We perceive something and we call it a pattern, okay? But that doesn't mean that the idea of being a pattern doesn't exist. You can't scientifically detect, you can't give me the weight of a pattern. So what element is a pattern? So that's first of all. But second of all, here's the thing. That doesn't really make sense, okay? You believe in science and logic because they work. They always work. That's why you believe in them. Okay, first of all, you don't believe in them because you're observing patterns. You believe in them because they're true, and it's not that hard to say that. I mean, we all assume that science and logic and math. Well, let's just say logic and math for now. They work. They always work. Okay, it's like almost like magic work. Now, if I take you seriously and say that these are just a description of something that we're seeing, we're just imposing a rule on this pattern, which could be random. That's sort of like, the metaphor is sort of like this. It's like as if you see a football game, and you say, there are no rules to this game inherent to the game. We are just observing a pattern that we see where the quarterback takes the ball and throws it to the halfback, and the linemen clash, and sometimes get a sack. And if anyone breaks a rule, there's a guy in a striped suit that blows whistle and stops them and everyone obeys them. Those are all things that they're just randomly doing. They're not really rules. There's no such thing as a rule book to a football. Well, that's this crazy, esoteric, metaphysical nonsense. No. This is just a football game. We just call it a football game, but we're just observing. And at any moment, they could just start all ballet dancing. They could all start break dancing because, we're just observing a pattern. That's what it's like. You're saying that the rules of football emanate from the football game. No, they don't. These people are football players. They learned how to play football. Football game emanates from the football rule book. Without the football rule book, there's no game of football. That's the logical thing to think. It's absurd to think otherwise. It's just silly. And the only reason you're doing it is because you want to hold on to materialism. The science isn't important to you. Materialism is. And so I have to go back to my question I've asked before. Why believe in this stuff? Why not just accept that there are some things that aren't material? And the truth is that I think people do. I don't think people really think, because if they really thought that way, they would assume that at any moment the rules of science and logic could stop working, because there's no reason to keep that they should work. There's just matter. Science and logic are not real. They're just thoughts projected by our ghost that's projected by our brain. They're unreal times 2. They're unreal squared. So if people really believed in materialism, they would never trust science and logic. They would not trust anything because they can't. It's impossible to trust it. Any more than you could trust, the lore of Star Wars, because it could change at any moment. Disney could buy it and change the lore. It's not really real, so they can do that. Same thing with our patterns we impose on the universe that we see. There's no reason to think they continue happening if you really believe in materialism, but people do. They trust these patterns. They trust science. They trust logic. They trust math, as they should, because they know inherently that these things are real. Everyone does. No one acts like they don't. No one really believes in materialism. You don't really believe in naturalists. There are no true materialists. Okay? And if you do, please come and visit me and bring your pet Jabberwocky. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel.